Fight.
What's up? Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Watch the Lights. I'm Todd, and today I would like to give a humongous shout out to my favorite and number one thumbs down guy, Mr. Kevin Muck. Every time I put a video, me and RC Drag Talk, we get the same thumbs down. Every time. We know you're watching, buddy. It's all right. We still love you. Thumbs down, thumbs up. We still love you, Mr. Muck. Today we are going to cover RC tools for the new person getting into RC hobby and some of the basic stuff that you should have in your toolbox for building, tuning, adjusting, and maintaining your RC car. So let's start with the most important is your wrenches. One of the most important investments that you're going to have in RC is your wrenches. I would suggest 100% investing in MIP wrenches is one of the best investments that I've ever made in RC hobby. This isn't a tool that's going to last me a month. This isn't a tool that's going to last me a year. This is a lifelong tool investment, not only in my hobby, but in the performance of taking out a screw, the way they're designed, that you're going to strip less screws, and they're going to last forever. You're not going to break the tips, stuff like that. This is great stuff. Check them out. MIP Hobbies. Great tool to have in your toolbox. The next tool that I suggest everybody have in their toolbox for RC is a voltmeter. It'll come in handy when you're having issues with lipos or batteries, just to make sure that they're functioning correctly and you're reading the right voltage. If you don't have a way to read voltage, this is a good way to read voltage. Some voltage meters will also read capacitance and stuff like that, so you could actually see the UF of your capacitors and make sure they're within range still and they're not failing. So a good voltage meter is a good investment for RC and should be in everybody's toolbox. Basic tool. The next thing that should be in everybody's toolbox is a set of calipers. Digital calipers are a great tool to have. You can use them to adjust your shocks, make sure your shocks are even, your linkage, your steering linkage, all that stuff, you know, making sure everything's adjusted correctly and to the same size. Calipers are great. I use calipers all the time. I use them to measure the tire circumference on my pro cars or my foam cars. This is really important. You want your tires to be the exact same circumference all the way around, and that will help ensure that your car goes straight. It's not going to guarantee you straightness, but it's going to give you a better chance of going straight when the tires are the same height. It's not going to have a car that's sitting off and already crooked because one tire is higher than the other. So calipers are a good tool to have in your toolbox, and it's good to measure your foam tires all the time to make sure your foam tires are even. Cheap, you can get them on eBay, like 10 bucks. Another good tool to have in your toolbox for every beginner is a temp gun. Temp guns are extremely important, and you're gonna use them a lot more than you think you will. I use them every time I go to the track all day long. This is telling me the temperature of the track and how it's changing from morning to night. And this is gonna help me determine how I prep the tires on my prepped cars, my prepped wheel cars, and lets me know how hot or cool the motors are coming back and the ESCs are coming back after each run. So this is a good tool to have. You can also pick these up on eBay, super cheap. Check that out. good for a lot of things other than just checking motor temps. Like I said, tracks, tire temps, everything. So Temp Gauge, good tool to have in your toolbox. A lot of us have ESCs like the Castle ESCs and Tekin ESCs. All those companies like Tekin, Castle, they make these like the Tekin Hot Link. This is so you can get into the ESC, or the Castle Link. This is so we can get into the ESC and start collecting data. So this is more of data collection tools, but this is tools that are gonna help you tune your car, get your car dialed in, make the adjustments that you're looking for in the ESC. And if you don't have a way to access your ESC to see if you know what it's doing or what its settings are, or be able to collect data off of it, it's good to buy the manufacturer of ESC, their way of accessing that, so you can get the information off the ESC, make your adjustments, collect the data, and add that data that you've collected to other data, and make more educated, more educated adjustments, not just guesses. So this is the first tools that you're going to use in data collection. This will be part of, like I said, ESC tuning, controller tuning, and motor tuning. The next tool that I would suggest everybody get is a Dremel. A Dremel is invaluable. If you don't have a Dremel and you're messing with RC cars, get one. You can cut carbon fiber, you can cut screws, you can make adjustments, you can sand stuff, make stuff. Like the ultimate RC tool right here is a Dremel. One of my favorite tools in my toolbox are my CalRC mats. As you can see, I have them everywhere. They're all filled with screws. I don't lose screws anymore. Ever since I started using my CalRC mats, this is just an invaluable tool, regardless if you get a large one or a small one. It just comes in real handy. It gives you little spots to put your screws, keep stuff organized. And if you don't own a CalRC mat, get one. I promise you'll thank me. And if you don't have a CalRC mat and you want to get one, use the code word SWEETNESS, and that'll get you 20% off of a one-time purchase. And you can use it to buy like mats and the lubricants, like the Utter Butter, the Moo Clean, the Moo Clean parts and chassis wash, the Moo Slick, stuff like that. All great stuff, and all just tremendous for maintaining or working on your vehicle. But if you don't have a CalRC mat, I suggest you get one. Now, more of data collection tools. You guys seen me mess with the motor analyzer before. The motor analyzer is just a tool in all the parts that I use, or all the tools that I use to collect data. So, I tune a motor, then I make a pass, and I collect that data off of the ESC, and that helps me make better choices on how I, set the motor timing, or the changes I made in the ESCs, or the changes I make on the timing of how it's set up in the controller. Or this is just a tool for collecting data. So this is one of the things I use in all of the tools I have for data collection to make adjustments to my car and make my car faster. This is a great tool. You can pick one up on eBay. They're like 80 bucks. It's not crazy expensive, but it's just gonna help you dial in your car, make it faster, make better adjustments, and see what your KV, your RPM, the current your motors are pulling, stuff like that. Like I said, it's not the only tool you're gonna use to tune a car. It's just one of the many tools you use to collect the data you need to tune your car. But this one's made by SkyRC. Trinity makes one called the Motorlizer. Phantom RC has a Gauss rotor tool, and it's called the fax machine. So there's a lot of different tools out there that you can use for motors that are made by pretty good companies. So this is just one tool in the whole scheme of things. Motor analyzer. One of my favorite tools that I use quite often is the corner scales. So this is just one of the corners. It comes with 4 corner scales, And this helps me adjust the balance of my car. So when I set my car on the corner scales, I'm gonna know its balance of all 4 tires. I'm gonna know the weight distribution of it from front to back, side to side, you know, and this is gonna help me adjust my car and make my car go straighter off the hit and work better. It's pretty cool. You can put it on your car on the scale, see where your car's at, and you could have a shock pushing down harder on one side than the other, and you'll be able to see it on the corner scales, making small finite adjustments that are more of chassis tuning adjustments. And the chassis tuning adjustments are gonna help your car go down the track straighter and faster. It's an inexpensive tool. You can get one on eBay. Once again, this one's made by Sky RC, and you can also pick this up for around 80 bucks, but it's a good tool to have in your arsenal of tools for data collection. It'll come in super handy, and you'll realize you use it a lot more than you thought you ever would. Last but not least, a video camera. So a decent video camera that you can shoot video on the line and watching your car take off will come in really handy. It'll show how the car's leaving. It'll show any inconsistencies in the car, any weird things the car is doing. It's just basically a cheap way to collect data that happens so fast, you're not really seeing a lot of it until the car's already spun out of control or flipped over or just went crazy or doesn't do what you want. A video camera is a good way to see what it's doing, and you can put it in slow-mo and collect a lot of information from a slow motion video to see what your car's doing. But you can pick them up on eBay. It doesn't have to necessarily be a GoPro. There's all kinds of companies out there making like 4K clone cameras like this. You can pick them up for like 35, 40 bucks, and it's gonna give you the same information that you would with any high-end camera. But it's a good little tool to have. Not necessary, but it's a good tool to have. And that, my friends, is it for some basic tools. That was really just for people getting into the RC hobby or RC drag racing hobby, and giving them an idea of some things that they should have in their toolbox to be successful in RC drag racing. The next thing I'm going to cover today, my Street Outlaw car. My Street Outlaw car, I started with a Team Associated B5M, so that was the donor car. I'm using the J Concepts 66 Nova body. Big shout out to my buddies John and Jonathan Schultz for donating me the body. They gave me a used donor body, but I think it looks pretty sweet, and I'm really cheap, so I'm going to use it till it's completely not usable, because these things are expensive and I don't want to buy another one. So, but yeah, the 66 Nova body, and let's get into the car. So on this build, I started with a Team Associated B5M. The first thing I did was went and purchased a SC5M chassis to extend the wheelbase to a short course chassis wheelbase. This allows the car to use the J Concepts bodies, the Proline bodies, the Parma bodies, and any of the other, you know, like Traxxas slash size bodies that we're using in the NPRC style or Street Outlaw racing. So it'll fit the wheelbases. For this build, I went with an all Tekin build, and on that I mean everything. So the first thing we started with was the Tekin T130 servo. I went with the Tekin T130 steering servo because it's fully programmable with the Tekin Hotlink, which is a cool option. I can go in and make multiple adjustments on my steering servo to get my car to perform exactly how I want on the steering end. It's fully upgradable, and the servo is really smooth. I've played with it a few times out front. I haven't really got to test this car too much. We've had a bunch of rain and I've been working a lot. But I've got to play with it out front a couple times, and it's pretty crazy fast and fun. But yeah, the Tekin T130 steering servo. The second thing I went with on this all Tekin setup was the Tekin RS Pro Black. I could use any Tekin ESC I wanted, but I really felt from talking with like Tim Smith and others that the Tekin RS Pro Black gives me the amount of adjustability I need. Plus it has a 400 amp per phase handling capability, which is quite a bit. It's a great servo. It's fully adjustable. It has data collection, and it handles the low turn motors that we're running at the high amp draw that we're running them at. On this car, I'm just using a stock Tekin capacitor. And then I went with the Tekin 4.5 turn Gen 3 motor, and it's pretty fast, man. That motor makes a lot of power. I don't have a crazy setup in it yet, but I pretty much, it's basic, man. I haven't put a lot of time into it. For the shocks and to get the stance I wanted, what I did was I found a set of Team Associated, or not Team Associated, but some aftermarket B5M front shocks. And so this car's running the B5M front shocks, front and rear. Then what I did was I took the fluid out that was in them, and I went with Team Associated 5,000 weight diff fluid oil. So I'm running the 5,000 weight diff fluid oil front and back. To adjust the ride height, what I did on the shock was I used Tygon tubing or silicone tubing to limit how far the shock extends. And then I filled them with shock oil, and that's what I used for adjusting ride height. I have the car set pretty low. I have the dog bones kicked up a little bit in the rear. It's pretty smooth though, because of the weight of the oil. I don't have a very fast compression and rebound. It's super slow on the compression and rebound side, but it's drag racing, and I kind of like it slow. I don't want it to be very springy or very responsive, because we're going kind of fast, and I don't think that's necessarily going to work for what I'm doing. Since it's a mid-motor car, I didn't have many options on a wheelie bar. There's a company on Shapeways that makes a wheelie bar for it. I haven't got it yet. I'm gonna order it. They make a really cool mount for the wheelie bar, and their mounts right to the back of the B5M or SC5M chassis, and then you can use a Traxxas style ladder wheelie bar on it and keep all the adjustability. For me, what I did was I took a piece of carbon fiber stock, 2mm, about 1 inch long and about 10 inches, 1 inch wide and about 10 inches long, and I mounted it to the shock mount plate right here on the bottom with extra long screws, and that's how I secured it to the chassis. And then what I did was I took a little piece of carbon fiber in here and blocked it and drilled a hole in it and ran a 440 rod through the carbon fiber with collets on each end to stop it, and a piece of silicone tube to dampen it. And that's pretty much the basic stick style wheelie bar that I used on it. I don't have a lot of time with this car, so I'll get you guys more information on the car, how I set it up for drag racing, what it does when I make no prep hits. But my stock setup right now is I have 30 degrees of timing in the can. I have 30 degrees of boost on the ESC, and then I have 15 degrees of turbo. That's what I'm running. I'm running an 80 tube spur and a 19 pinion. I'm gonna run this on a shorty pack. I think I'm gonna use a 5,000 milliamp 100C Phantom LiPo pack. That's what I'm gonna order next for it. And we're gonna see how it performs and see if I can keep up with all you fast guys out there running these cars right now. Since I don't have a lot of time with it, I don't know what it's gonna do, but man, some of you guys are crazy fast, and I got some catching up to do. So I'm gonna start messing with the car, and I'm gonna be running this car this coming up year with the Arizona guys. I'm gonna be running with them a lot, and it's gonna be fun, and out there with Coy and his crew, and Ryan Crowley, and all those guys. So that should be a lot of fun to get out there and run this next year with a new crew, and run against guys that I've never got to run with before. So that'll be fun. That was primary reason I'm building this, because you guys run a lot of those out there. So I'm getting it dialed in. Hopefully I have it running and getting going straight and fast before I get out there and get beat by all you guys. But that's it on the car. It's a pretty simple build, man. These cars are pretty easy to build. You go out, get a short course, 2-wheel drive short course car, lower it, throw some drag slicks on it, throw a drag body on it that covers your wheels. You can find all the rules on the NPRC page on Facebook, and then you come out and you have a lot of fun with us, man, because these cars are a blast. It's one of the largest classes we have right here at the SDRA. It's a pretty huge class in the RCDRL, and it's a pretty much a huge class everywhere right now. So if you haven't built one and you're thinking about it, get off your butt, build a short course drag car, and come out and have a ton of fun with us, because these cars are pretty awesome. And that's it. I'm still working on, I know we talked about capacitors, and I was gonna do a video on capacitors and let you know what I found. And all I can say is that is a humongous rabbit hole that I have dove down, and it's pretty crazy. So I'm still diving down that rabbit hole. I'm not done compiling all the information that I would like to compile to come with you, to come and give you guys the video that I want to give you guys, to give you guys the best information possible on capacitors and what they do and how they work and the types of capacitors they are, and how pulse width modulation does this and ripple does that. And yeah, it's a lot. So I'm still working on it. This one's probably gonna take me a little bit of time to get all the data I need and talk to people that I want to talk to about capacitors and get opinions and do some research and find some good URL links so you guys can kind of read the same things I read about the capacitors and how they help the ESC and the whole 9 yards. But that's gonna take a minute. But other than that, like and subscribe to the video. Check out the Facebook page, Watch the Lights, and thank you for coming and checking me out, man. And if you guys have anything you need me to cover or you want me to cover, please feel free to hit me up on the Facebook page, my personal page, or the YouTube page, man. And once again, thank you guys and have a great day.